Good afternoon. Welcome to today's webinar event. My name is Joshua. I hope everybody can hear me okay. It's promptly 12 noon Eastern time here. Our topic today is posting and recording petty cash in church windows accounting. Before we get to that, the heart of the matter here in terms of our topic today, a few technical things. Click the little red arrow on the sidebar of your webinar control panel. If you have a single monitor set up, that allows you to minimize that page and get that out of the way, get the full visual effect of the presentation, or drag it off to your second desktop if you've got a dual monitor set up. We are recording today's webinar event, albeit I think we've got the same topic out there from an earlier version, a couple of years ago at least, out on our website. Now that'll be replaced here by this one. Sometime in the next 24 to 48 hours, if not by the end of the day today. There is a handout as part of the webinar today, so if you click on the plus sign or the little arrow next to your handouts section there, you'll be able to print that, or you can get it from the Support Center page on our website as well. If you're having trouble locating that or downloading that, please let us know. We'll be happy to get that to you. If you have questions, please type those into the questions portion of the webinar control panel. I'll do my best to keep an eye on those. I'm pretty good at repeating the question for everybody's benefit, and then we'll see what we can't do to get those questions answered for you, okay? Please keep the questions on topic, basically about our recording and tracking petty cash. You know, there may be another webinar event here in future or something out on the Support Center page that may be better suited to answer your other questions, or of course our support staff are happy and available and happy to answer any support questions you have. 800-533-5227. Okay? All right, so let's jump into accounting here real quick. All right, so the document talks about a couple different ways of recording petty cash and reporting in that and recording that. Basically, the note there at the top says petty cash is cash expense account is part of the fund that represents the money in the checking account, the general operating fund. You don't necessarily have to have a petty cash expense if you don't want to. You know, as you know, you're recording what the petty cash is being expensed for. You could charge it to something that's more specific than that. But if you wish to have simply an expense account on your chart of accounts called petty cash, you may certainly do so, okay? Folks, there's one thing you've got to get from this is that there's a fair amount of flexibility in terms of how you choose to record petty cash. However, in virtually all situations, because it's, again, money that's not kept or tracked in, say, the checking account or savings account, we're going to want to have a separate asset on our books called petty cash. So when we go into Manage Accounts here, we notice right here, let me introduce my highlighter friend. Right here, he said, trying to grab his highlighter. Right over here are assets in our chart of accounts. Nothing in here talks about petty cash, okay? So we're going to add one to our asset accounts called petty cash. So how we're going to do that is you can do this in a couple different ways. You could go up to Manage Accounts, Accounts Plus Minus, go to Asset here in the upper left corner, right up here. Or we can do it right here from the chart of accounts window. So once I've highlighted that, we're going to go to Tree View. I'm going to right-click over Assets, and I'm going to say Add New Asset. And I can see those assets right here. So we're going to call this one, you know, Petty Cash Account. And we're going to tab down, and we're going to give that a 10105. Okay, and we're going to put that under Total Current Assets and Investments, and we're going to click OK. So now it's added petty cash to our actual asset accounts. Correct. Again, it represents the box or the drawer that you have on the church premises that actually stores that petty cash balance at whatever point in time, whichever method you choose to use. So the option number one that it talks about here is setting up the petty cash asset, increasing the account when petty cash is replenished. That's the one that I prefer. The option number two talks about always maintaining a balance in this petty cash account and then expensing the monies for whatever they were paid for out, again, for whatever the petty cash paid for at any given time, okay? Basically, it always remains at a $100 balance. We always know that that account is being replenished every time it's being used. So option number one, how we would do that is, let's say we want to keep $100 or establish a $100 balance in our petty cash account. So how we're going to do that is we're going to go right up here to transactions, right here across the top to transfer. Let me get out my highlighter again. Right up here to transfer, okay? And so then when we're ready, we're going to transfer money from our petty cash account or from our checking account into petty cash. So right here we're going to say we're going to do it today. So our from account is going to be checking account, Huntington Bank checking to petty cash. We're going to put in $100. Very important, folks, to understand that because we're posting an asset transfer, it requires that we choose a payment method, and it's important that you understand that we can choose computer check. So if I need to physically take a check to the bank and get cash out at the bank, I can do that. So notice here it says computer check. We're going to choose that. Where there's no check or reference number, we're going to put in here to fund petty cash. And we're going to click Done, Add to Batch. Okay? So we notice here under our Show Running Balance window that we've opened by clicking the Show Running Balance that our Huntington Bank checking is now $100 less. Our petty cash is a current balance of 0, adding $100 into it. This is doing the entries, doing exactly what we want it to do. We're going to go ahead and post this. Okay? So now we're not going to print our report. We're going to close out of our transfers window. But now when I go to print checks, I've now got a check waiting in the print queue for petty cash. He said, there it is. Oh, I've got something else in here too. But if I go petty cash account, if I want to be more detailed on that, I can go right here into manage accounts, put in petty cash, and over here I could say bank name, just change that to cash, and then that will show up as my name of my payee when I go back into print checks again. Okay, so right here. So right here I've got $100 with the payee of cash. I would go ahead and print that check, take it to the bank, get out the $100, put that in my petty cash box. Then, per option number one, I've got a fair amount of options and flexibility on this, okay? So if you want to show each vendor that was paid from petty cash, you could certainly go in and set them up as vendors and do the enter bills, pay bills process. But, when we're talking about, a few dollars, sometimes up to, $10 or $20 that we're expensing out of petty cash on a regular basis, maybe you don't want to add all those vendors. Well, with that in mind, you could go up to, say, transactions here, transactions, other, and say journal entry, and you could just do journal entry transactions, debiting the expense account for whatever petty cash was paying for and crediting petty cash with the description and the line items of who was paid and for what, okay? Typically the purpose of the petty cash oftentimes is to make life simpler, for us to administer, when petty cash is, we don't want to have to write a check and pay a bill and all that other stuff to those folks that we have to reimburse for these very nominal and small expenses, and then going in and recording those petty cash expenses as needed, to pay for that. Then, so what I would do here is I would do an expense, say, for, let's say, let me find an expense here. We're going to do something here on this. Go down to expenses. Come on, Josh. There we go. Postage. So we're going to say somebody bought postage. So we're going to debit postage expense for $15. And we're going to go over here and we're going to credit petty cash for $15. And then over here under line item or transaction comments, I would say postage reimbursement or something. And then click Done, Add to Batch. Again, Show Running Balance now shows that postage is being increased by $15 and petty cash is now being decreased by that, okay? So then I would post that, and then Now, when it comes time for me to replenish petty cash, when my drawer box is getting close to empty, I simply now go back up to transactions, transfer, and I post another asset transfer to be able to take the money, check to the bank, and take that money out or replenish that to, again, take out those receipts that are in that box, file those or whatever you choose to do with those after they've been accounted for, and then put the balance back into the cash box to top it back up to the $100 balance, okay? That's option number one. Option number two is to basically establish the petty cash account, always leaving it as $100 to state that there's $100 that we've got available for usage for petty cash purposes. So basically that transfer function under option number one is no different in option number one than it is for option number two, okay? Option number two, though, number two is where things differ. As it indicates, as cash is spent, you would use the enter bills to credit the vendor and debit the appropriate expense account, and then use the pay bills process to post the payment, and then basically put the money back into your petty cash box or locked drawer as needed. Okay. Basically, it's stating that under this method, the petty cash account always stays at a consistent amount of $100 with receipts and actual cash totaling this amount. Okay. So again, there's a good deal of flexibility in option number two from the standpoint that, again, your vendor could be set up as petty cash, or basically just debiting those various expenses, putting it into petty cash, and then periodically going in and posting a single payment posting a single payment to petty cash and then putting the money back in the box, or going in and posting those various expenses to those various vendor accounts for whom the petty cash money was spent. Your choice. Again, a fair amount of flexibility on that. So I'm personally in favor of option number one, but I also work with a lot of accounting and bookkeeping folks who are in favor of option number two as well. So it wasn't not a very terribly difficult or complex topic today, folks. That's really our topic for the day. We've gone about 13 minutes into or 10 minutes into our event here today, so that's where I'm going to end what I'm discussing. Petty cash is pretty straightforward with a fair amount of flexibility, so we're going to end that topic there.